Hello! Today I'm going to explain you how we're going to do the Swiss braided bread, also called the Butterzopf. You'll find a recipe in my blog, written as well. Makes everything easier for you. Let's start with the tools I'm going to use. Measuring cup, a glass, stroke brush. I use one from silicone that makes it much easier to clean. I have a small bowl, the big bowl that I'm going to use with the kitchen machine. And I have the fanciest thing ever. This is a measuring cup combined with a scale. Ingredients we're going to use are all-purpose flour, little bit of salt, then I have some brown sugar, milk, an egg, and best would be butter, but here in Egypt I have something made from plant. So I take the big bowl that I use with the kitchen machine, I place it on my scale, and I make sure that everything is on 0 gram. And then I start with it. We put 500 grams of flour. Okay. Then we pour the salt. The nice thing with the scale is you could put it back to 0 with already having ingredients inside, but I'm using it just like that. So I know with the 500 grams of flour plus 10 grams of salt, I will end up with 510. Next step will be white and brown sugar, each of them 6 grams. So to show you the function of the scale, I put it back on 0 now while I'm pouring the brown sugar. And now I take it off, put it already in my machine. And now I have to add the fresh yeast. Here I have my own fresh yeast. And now I can use another bowl. As I made my own fresh yeast, I'm putting a little bit more than 25 because after time it loses a bit the strength. You can use the minimal. So now to continue, I'm already going to mix up the liquids now before I'm adding the butter, because I just figured out my own way how to make the least mess and how to be fast enough for everything. So we have 270 grams of milk. And I really love my measuring cup / scale because now I just put the smaller one inside that I can measure the 270 grams. Now I pour the egg inside. Okay, I will shortly stop as I have to use both hands for this. So I was using the glass for the egg and I was measuring it on the 25 grams. Put the 25 grams of egg inside the milk. And now we're going to check for the butter. I prefer to cut it in smaller pieces, but it's already soft, it doesn't make a difference by the end. So 82 is fine as well if you like it a bit more tasty. That's what I do. And now we continue with pouring the butter in. Start the machine again. And now you leave it for around 5 minutes. In this time the milk gets room temperature, what is pretty good for the yeast. So now we're going to the liquid. I have here the milk and egg mixture. With the kitchen machine you can just let it run and pour it in. If you do it by hand, You should make a hollow in the middle, pour the liquid in and start from the middle with kneading. Here is the remaining egg mixture, and I already poured a few spoons of milk inside. This is then for stroking the bread. So the dough is ready when it's not sticking anymore. So as I said, I'm always looking for the easiest way and smallest spaces, and of course less to clean. So for the floured surface, usually I take another baking tray I have. So we take a little bit of flour and then we put the whole clump on it. And now we take a plastic bag. I use the same one many times. So it's one of these sandwich bags that I just cut to open. And like this, we leave it now for at least 45 minutes. Of course, it depends a bit on the temperature. Here in Egypt, usually it takes a bit less, but if you're somewhere home and it's not that hot like here, then leave it at least 45 minutes. As I wrote in my recipe, you can see I'm doing 2 smaller ones instead of 1 big one. So I have 1 part here covered again with the plastic, and the other 2 parts I cut already in 2 equal halves. So I did 2 strings, more or less the same size. And now I will show you how we're going to braid them. Start with a cross, very simple. Then take the ends of the down string and cross it over the upper string. Continue with these 2 that are now lower and cross them again. You will find the proper description with photos in the written recipe of the blog. Just continue, and at the end take the edge and put them a little bit under the rest of the braid. Like this you will have a nice finish. So when you're ready, you just cover them again and leave them for another 10 to 15 minutes like they are before we continue with stroking. 10 minutes are over, so we uncover the bread. And now we're going to stroke it with the mixture of the remaining egg and 1 or 2 tablespoons of milk. So stroke it gently. When you're finished stroking, we leave the bread another 10 minutes and we will stroke it again then before we put it into the oven. Now it's time, before we do the last stroke, I'm going to preheat. So you find different descriptions for different kind of ovens as well in the blog. And now we are going for the second round of stroking. Just be generous, it gives taste and color. So it's okay to waste a little bit around and to add enough. When you've done that, make sure that inside the oven you have the baking tray, but upside down. As soon as your oven is ready, then make sure that you find a way how to move the bread to the baking tray. I take a cutting board, pull the whole stuff on it, open my oven, and move it from the cutting board directly into the oven. Now you leave it for around 30 minutes and then have a look how it looks like. It's a bit up to you how good you know your oven. You can adjust the temperature a little bit, but mostly just stay with the numbers I give you on the recipe that is in my blog. Have a look. To me it looks pretty good. As I told you before, I have bottom heat, so my surface is not as dark or not as golden as it's supposed to be. You find variations in my blog to have a bit more glance or shine on the bread. This means you will have to put some water in the oven, and with my gas I'm not really brave enough to do it, but you can do it shortly after taking the bread out and just leave it that all the steam is gone, and then you will have a little shine on it. Then also I mentioned how to check if the bread is ready when you knock on the bottom. So now listen. Now this means it is ready. Let it cool. In Switzerland usually we eat it with butter and marmalade or with honey because it's a Sunday thing. But me, I love it most either with cheese or with Nutella, because this kind of bread tastes just amazing with everything. So enjoy it, and I hope you had fun watching this video. Thank you.